speaking to you from a sacred and an accursed place. It's called Babyn Yar. It's a ravine on the edge of Kyiv, Ukraine. 80 years ago, in this spot, 33,771 Ukrainian Jews, men, women, and children, were murdered within 2 days by the Nazi German occupying forces, joined by local collaborators here in Ukraine. By the end of the war, over 100,000 people, overwhelmingly Jews, were murdered within just a few yards of where I'm standing now. For years and years after the war, this spot was largely unprotected, and the only marker, one that I first saw in the 1970s when I came here, was a little Soviet monument that spoke only about the, quote, victims of fascism that were here. But the Soviets would never acknowledge that they were Jews. In fact, even to get here in those days, I had to find a taxi driver willing to take me because most refused, because this was seen as somehow too political for the Soviet Union, even though they were on the opposite side of Nazi Germany from 1941 onward. In 1961, a brave Soviet dissident poet named Evgeny Yevtushenko wrote a poem called Babyn Yar. He spoke about the fact that there were no monuments at Babyn Yar. Nad Babyn Yarem pamятников нет, he wrote, the opening line of that poem. It electrified the nation and the world. He dared to speak about something that no one else had had the courage to do. Why were there no monuments here? And then, for years, again, even those Soviet Jews who came here to try and mark the anniversary, September 29th, risked arrest. In 1991, thankfully, the Soviet Union crumbled and disappeared. Ukraine became an independent nation again. And now, 30 years after that independence, finally, after so much effort by so many, including the President of Ukraine, President Zelensky, and the previous President, President Poroshenko, and Natan Sharansky, the legendary former prisoner of conscience, now in Israel, and Naomi Ben-Ami by his side, and others, including many donors, made possible this appropriate and necessary and belated monument and memorial and tribute to the tens of thousands of Jews and others for whom there is no proper burial. I'm standing here at one of the memorial sites, and there are others around, and in a few minutes we'll all go into pavilion together with President Zelensky of Ukraine and President Isaac Herzog of Israel and President Steinmeier of Germany and others who've come from around the world to mark the anniversary and the opening of this site 80 years after one of the great tragedies in what we know today as the Shoah, the Holocaust, the industrialized effort to murder all of European Jewry that succeeded in killing 6 million Jewish men, women, and children, including 100,000 or more on this very site where I'm standing now in Babyn Yar on the edge of Kyiv.